The gaming industry has changed. Even great games don't sell anymore.
Future, Rockstar.
From a Metroidvania that did everything right and still got its entire team disbanded, to a hand-drawn ninja revival from two legendary composers that its own publisher buried within weeks of launch. These are 10 recent good games that simply didn't sell, and we're going through all of them. Starting off at number 10 is Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, and this might be the most criminally mishandled launch of the decade. Released in January 2024 by Ubisoft Montpellier, the same studio behind the legendary Rayman games, this brought a dormant franchise back to life. The Prince of Persia series hadn't seen a new mainline entry since 2010, over a decade of total silence. What they delivered was incredible. The combat is sharp. The platforming is precise and brutally challenging. The boss fights legitimately rival anything in Hollow Knight or Ori. It is a genuine love letter to a forgotten franchise, and the audience actually showed up. Reviews landed in the mid to high 80s. The game went on to sell 1.3 million copies in its first year and crossed 2 million players by May 2025. For a $50 Metroidvania reviving a dormant franchise, those are strong numbers. Ubisoft still considered it a failure. Reports from inside Ubisoft Montpellier suggest the decision to pass on a sequel was made within just weeks of launch, when early sales came in below expectations. By October 2024, the news became public. The Lost Crown team was officially disbanded and reassigned to other projects. The planned sequel canceled. A second expansion pitch rejected. Metroid Dread, one of the best-selling Metroidvanias of recent years, took time to build its numbers. Hollow Knight took years to become a phenomenon. These are titans. Expecting Prince of Persia to do those numbers right out of the gate was wishful thinking. At number 9, we have the first Berserker, Khazan, and this one is a perfect case study in how broken sales expectations have gotten. Released on March 27, 2025 by Korean developer Neopal and published by Nexon, Khazan is one of the most polished Souls-likes in recent memory. The combat takes huge inspiration from Neo. The art style is gorgeous. The boss design is fantastic. The pre-launch marketing was actually strong. The Russo brothers, the directing duo behind Avengers Endgame, were brought in to supervise a cinematic trailer at the Game Awards 2024. A free demo went viral, and the numbers at launch backed up the hype. Khazan peaked at over 32,000 concurrent players on Steam, huge for a single-player niche title. Steam reviews settled around 84% positive. Total Steam sales were estimated between 600 and 700,000 units, bringing in roughly $30 million in gross revenue. Then Nexon's earnings call happened. They classified Khazan as underperforming. Nexon is the publisher of Dungeon & Fighter, one of the highest grossing video games of all time, with over $22 billion in lifetime revenue. $22 billion. So when a corporation that prints money like that looks at a $30 million single-player Souls-like and calls it a disappointment, you start to see the problem. Single-player games are not being measured against other single-player games anymore. They are being measured against live service whales. By that standard, no quality release will ever be enough. Khazan deserved better. The franchise deserves a sequel. And if you have not played it yet, this is one of the best Souls-likes of the past few years sitting right there waiting for you. Now at number 8 is Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess, and this is one of the most creative games released in 2024. Coming out in July 2024 from Capcom, it is a wild hybrid of action combat, tower defense, and real-time strategy, wrapped in stunning Japanese folklore. You play as a swordsman protecting a shrine maiden as she walks toward corrupted gates. By day, you assign villagers roles like archers and woodcutters. By night, you defend her against demonic creatures called the Seath. Nothing else on the market looks or plays like this. Reviews settled solidly in the low to mid 80s. The art direction is breathtaking. It launched day one on Xbox Game Pass and pulled in around 500,000 players, but actual Steam sales were estimated at just 50 to 60,000 units. The game never appeared on Capcom's prestigious Platinum Titles list of million sellers. Capcom themselves publicly admitted in their financial report that the marketing was the problem. They acknowledged they did not properly communicate what kind of game this even was. And honestly, fair point, the trailers were confusing. You could not tell at a glance whether this was action, strategy, or something else entirely. One of the most unique games of the year, completely buried by bad marketing. If you have Game Pass, please give it a real chance before it disappears into the back catalog forever. At number 7, we have Senua's Saga, Hellblade II. And this one represents one of the saddest economic realities in modern gaming. Making art does not pay anymore. Released in May 2024 by Ninja Theory under Xbox Game Studios, Hellblade 2 is possibly the best-looking video game ever made. Built using Epic's metahuman technology and photorealistic scanning of locations in Iceland, every frame looks like a piece of film. Melina Juergens returns as Senua and delivers a performance that belongs in awards conversations alongside actual movies. This is a focused 8 to 10 hour experience, no open world, and no live service hooks. Microsoft launched it at a reduced $50 price point instead of the usual $70, already a quiet admission they were not sure it would sell at full price. And it not sell. Within launch month, Hellblade 2 ranked 37th in overall US dollar sales. On Steam, the peak concurrent player count maxed at just over 4,000 players. Total Steam sales estimated between 150,000 and 200,000 copies. For comparison, the original Hellblade from 2017, made by a smaller team on a fraction of the budget, eventually surpassed 1 million copies sold. The smaller, scrappier indie original outperformed the polished AAA showcase by a factor of 5. Hellblade 2 spent years being crafted into a masterpiece. The audience showed up for an afternoon on subscription, scrolled past it, and moved on. The PlayStation 5 Enhanced Edition, released in August 2025 with the long-requested 60 FPS performance mode, recovered some ground, but the damage was already done. Number 6 is the Dead Space Remake, and I know what you're thinking. 2 million copies sold, how was that a flop? Stick with me. The original Dead Space, when it released in 2008, sold about 2 million copies across its entire lifetime. That number was considered a hit. It launched a beloved horror franchise. Sequels happened. EA built an entire survival horror brand off those exact numbers. Fast forward to January 2023. EA Motive releases their ground-up remake. It is exceptional. The Intensity Director system dynamically adjusts environmental scares. The Ishimura ship is now seamless with 0 loading screens. Glenn Schofield, the original creator, publicly praised the remake. In its first year, the remake also sold over 2 million copies, the exact same number that built the original franchise. EA called it underperforming. Think about what that tells you. The exact same number that made the original a hit in 2008 is considered a flop in 2023. The bar did not just rise, it moved into a different universe. EA reportedly wanted Resident Evil 4 remake numbers around 5 million plus. So instead of a Dead Space 2 remake, we got nothing. PC patches stopped, the sequel canceled, the franchise functionally dead again. This is the math problem hollowing out modern gaming. A game can succeed by every traditional definition and still be killed by shareholders who only know one direction, bigger. 2 million wasn't enough in 2023. 5 million wouldn't be enough by 2026. Eventually, nothing will be, and we will completely lose the mid-tier of gaming entirely. At number 5, we have Keeper, and this one breaks my heart because it shows you exactly what Microsoft thinks of its own studios. Released in October 2025 by Double Fine Productions, the legendary studio behind Psychonauts, Brutal Legend, and Grim Fandango Remastered, Keeper is the kind of weird, soulful project Double Fine built their entire 2-decade legacy on. The premise alone should have caught fire. You play as a sentient lighthouse with legs, walking across a surreal post-apocalyptic landscape on a journey that genuinely earns its emotional weight by the end. It is an atmospheric adventure cut from the same cloth as Inside and Limbo, but with way more personality and substantially bigger budget. The game launched day one on Xbox Game Pass, and almost nobody noticed. At time of recording, Keeper has accumulated just 622 reviews on Steam. The peak concurrent player count topped out at 191. No major reveal trailer cycle. No Game Awards spotlight. Microsoft just dumped it onto Game Pass with a release date in silence. Here is what is actually going on. Microsoft owns more studios than any publisher in gaming history. Double Fine, Bethesda, Obsidian, Inxile, Compulsion, Mojang, Activision Blizzard. So what do they need each individual game to be? Just content. Just another bullet point on the Game Pass marketing page that month. They do not need Keeper to succeed individually. That is the trade we made as players. Endless content streaming straight to our subscription. Zero individual care for the artists making it. Keeper deserved a real launch. Double Fine deserved a real launch. Instead, one of the most original games of 2025 came and went without a sound, treated like filler by the company that owns it. At number 4, we have Shinobi, Art of Vengeance. And this one really gets to me because Sega did almost everything right except actually sell the game. Released on August 29, 2025, Art of Vengeance is the first new mainline Shinobi game in over 14 years. Sega entrusted the project to Lizard Cube, the studio behind the masterpiece Streets of Rage 4. They brought in T. Lopes, the composer behind Sonic Mania, as lead composer. And they paired him with Yuzo Koshiro, the legendary composer of the original 1989 Revenge of Shinobi. Two legendary composers on one project. Sega invested in this like it mattered to them. The result is a hand-drawn action masterpiece, combat that flows like water, animation that rivals theatrical anime. Metacritic landed around 90. Steam reviews are over 90% positive. The launch price was a very reasonable $30, and it sold roughly 1/10 of what Streets of Rage 4 managed. Sega openly stated in their fiscal earnings report that Shinobi underperformed expectations. The game went on sale within weeks of launch. Sega acknowledged several of their 2025 releases missed targets, which suggests the issue was on the publisher side, not the game's. Number 3 is the Talos Principle, Reawakened. And this game might be the perfect example of solving a problem nobody actually had. Crow Team, the studio behind Serious Sam, released this in 2025 as a complete ground-up remake of their 2014 philosophical puzzle classic, rebuilt in Unreal Engine 5. New expansion called In the Beginning. Massively upgraded visuals. It is a genuinely impressive remake. But here is the thing nobody wants to say. The original Talos Principle from 2014 still works perfectly, still looks great, still plays beautifully. It is available for under $5 on Steam right now. Meanwhile, the 2023 sequel Talos Principle 2 was a massive success with over 8,000 Steam reviews. The fan base was hungry. They wanted more puzzles, more philosophy. Then Crow Team launched Reawaken at $40. The result? At time of recording, the remake has only around 810 Steam reviews. The peak concurrent player count is just 737 players. For a remake of a beloved cult classic from a studio that just had a major hit, those numbers are shocking. The lesson here is brutal. Fans did not want the original made shinier. They wanted forward momentum. They wanted the next entry. Crow Team tried to monetize nostalgia for a game most fans already owned, and the audience just said no. The remake is now $30, which honestly should have been the launch price. It is still way more game than the price suggests. But its existence is a cautionary tale for every publisher considering a remake right now. At number 2, we have Hi-Fi Rush, And this is where my frustration with the industry really boils over. In January 2023, Tango Gameworks shadow dropped Hi-Fi Rush during a Bethesda Direct, a rhythm action game where every attack syncs to the music. No prior marketing, no hype cycle. It just appeared on Game Pass and was playable that same day. The reception was instantaneous. Critics gave it a 90 on Metacritic. It dominated Game of the Year conversations. By August 2023, 3 million people had played it. Steam sales hit around 900,000 copies. The PlayStation 5 release in March 2024 added another 137,000. Internal reports later revealed Tango had already begun a sequel and a new IP. Microsoft used this game in marketing for over a year. They cited it at every showcase as proof Game Pass nurtured creativity. They used Tango Gameworks as a PR shield. Then in May 2024, they shut Tango Gameworks down completely. Read that again. The studio behind The Evil Within, Ghostwire, Tokyo, and Hi-Fi Rush, 3 critically acclaimed games, was wiped off the map. Microsoft's spreadsheet decided the Game Pass numbers did not translate to enough direct revenue, the exact same Game Pass numbers Microsoft had bragged about for 18 months. That is not a business decision. That is a betrayal. Tango was actively building a sequel. They had a new IP in development. They were exactly the kind of studio every publisher claims they want to support. Krafton acquired the studio in August 2024 and brought the team back. There is hope. But the precedent stands. If Hi-Fi Rush wasn't enough, what game possibly would be? 3 million players, Game of the Year talk, a sequel ready, and they still pulled the plug. And finally, at number 1, Neon Inferno, the smallest game on this list and the one that needs you the most. Released in late 2025 by indie developer Xenovia Interactive, Neon Inferno was a cyberpunk run-and-gun side-scroller with some of the most jaw-dropping pixel art ever rendered. There is a unique 2-plane shooting mechanic where you hold a button to fire into the background, combining Contra with Sunset Riders. The soundtrack hits like a freight train. It costs approximately $20. There is a free demo right now. At time of recording, Neon Inferno has roughly 200 Steam reviews. The all-time peak concurrent player count is 103 players total. There used to be a story we all told ourselves about Steam, that it was the savior of indie games, that if you made something special, the audience would find it. That story is over. Steam releases thousands of games every month. Quality means nothing if you do not also have a marketing budget, a built community, or a viral moment. Neon Inferno has none of those things. It has only the game itself, which is excellent. Here is the truth nobody says. The other games on this list will probably be fine. Dead Space might come back. Hi-Fi Rush has Krafton. Even the Ubisoft games will survive in some form. But Neon Inferno doesn't have a parachute. If you don't show up for this one, it disappears. This is the most important game on this list. Try the demo. If you have ever loved a Contra or a Metal Slug, you absolutely owe yourself this game. And maybe more importantly, Xenovia Interactive deserves the chance to make another one. And that's all 10. Drop your favorite in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, like, share, and subscribe, because we have a lot more coverage on these underrated games coming your way.